you. Good morning, everybody. I've always been obsessed with speeches. Before coming to Brooks, I used to skip the parts of every cliche sports movie to the parts where the coach would give the classic speech about resilience and loving the game and just having fun. I love the awe that always came right after it. It was the kind of speech that left people breathless. I could only dream of delivering the kind of speeches that I played over and over in so many movies and YouTube clips. I watched speeches from presidents, coaches, even Brooks graduates. I really wanted to be able to have that effect on people with just my words, so freshman year, when I learned that I would be giving my own speech before I graded, I could not wait. I began my speech, this speech. In other words, I have been writing this speech since freshman year, and although I won't read every entry, I will say that every year I thought I knew what I wanted to talk about. My freshman year, I wrote about getting evicted. It was the worst thing that had happened to me thus far. There were nights when all I wanted to do was go to school the next morning because of the warmth and electricity it would offer, things my home did not. I thought it didn't get worse from there, but I got through it, and somehow I realized it wasn't so bad. Sophomore year rolled around, and again I thought I knew what I wanted to talk about. I was on the train from seeing my brother. He was shot 3 times, and all I kept thinking about was the story he told me about the time when he saw a little girl die in front of him. And he said it felt like he was watching a slow-motion movie. I just kept thinking, seeing him hooked up to all that machinery, I knew what he meant when he said the world just stopped. But I realized in some ways there were parts of that story that isn't mine to tell, so I decided against it. Junior year somehow came and passed, and I couldn't bring myself to write anything down. Throughout it all, I kept thinking to myself, I probably will make it to senior year, let alone give a senior speech. You see, my whole life, I've known pain and disappointment. But for the first time, I wasn't trying to be strong for someone else because I didn't even have the strength within me for myself. During this year, it stopped being about telling my story and more about surviving it. And I realized this is what matters most. This is what I want all of you to know. Even if what I say isn't inspirational, it's real, and that's way more important. So I guess that's my first message. For the seniors and juniors, or maybe if you're like me, the freshmen in the room, who are thinking of giving a senior speech but don't know if what they have to say is inspirational enough or important enough. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you say as long as it's real to you. And although through my poetry and my documentary, I really am an open book, this story of survival isn't one you've heard about. It's something I don't like to share or haven't shared to a lot of people, but the lessons I learned from it are too crucial not to share. My keys to survival. And even though I sound like DJ Khaled, I'm serious. That's what I chose to talk about, the keys to survival. Because after all the bad that's happened to me, my life has sometimes felt like a horror movie. And in those times, I always think back to these things. Every horror movie isn't the same. And I'm not saying everything you go through has an easy fix because trust me, I'm still battling with the very things I'm going to advise you all on today. But as long as you keep these things in mind and keep fighting, you will get through it. Lesson 1, you don't always have to be the hero. There will be certain haunted houses that will be fun to repair, others not so much. You don't always have to be the hero. I met him in 8th grade. I was battling with a lot. My father had just died the year prior, and although he texted me and called me and reached out to my mom for months, I never picked up. One day while I was in my aunt's house, my dad called, and immediately I froze. He said, "Omarina, it's your dad." And after not talking to me for 5 years, I didn't think this was enough. I didn't forgive him, and so I said, "No, it's not," and I hung up. 2 months later, I was taken into my principal's office, and the same words were repeated to me. "Omarina, it's your dad. He's in critical condition. He's probably going to die." 2 hours later, he did. And I didn't cry until I saw him in the casket because that's when I realized I should have yelled at him, at the very least yelled at him, because no one deserves to die without hearing the voices of their loved ones. Ever since that day, I promised myself that when I love someone, I would never give up. No matter what, I will always try to save someone in need. That year, I worked so hard so that by my 8th grade year, my life and the future of my family's lives were set. I said to myself, I'm going to save my mom from the house she is living. Because trust me, taking care of 4 children by yourself with no money or support, now that's hell. So I worked hard, got into Brooks, and felt like I was on top of the world. So when I met him in 8th grade, my ex-boyfriend, I was battling a lot. But I was still fighting and winning. I'll spare you the details of our awkward love, but in the end, it didn't work out, and he ended up being my first heartbreak. The thing is, I promised myself that when I loved someone, I would never give up. So sophomore year, when he asked me back out, I said yes, immediately. Now, he was battling a lot, and he wasn't winning, to say the least. It started off fine. We were in love, and I was relatively happy. As time went on and junior year rolled by, his life started getting worse. I was stressed out from junior year, and my twin brother was arrested. His family life wasn't all that good either. He started taking these things out on me, yelling at me, ignoring my help, and then blaming it all on stress when I would say, enough. I wanted to help him with his problems, besides the fact that I was dealing with my own, and so I tried to do just that. But it got worse. By the end of that summer, last summer, he hit me. My left eye was bruised, and the right side of my face was swollen. So I left him, and I thought that would be the end of it. For a while, it was. But then I got a call from Montefiore Hospital. Is this Omarina? I heard the person say. Yes. We have a patient admitted into the hospital. He says he's going to kill himself. He says you're his emergency contact. Excuse me. I'm not going to stress the survival skill enough, because I really wish someone would have said this to me. Whether you're going through your own stuff or your friend is going through their own stuff, it's okay to be there for them, and it's okay to try to deal with things on your own, but you don't always have to be the hero. I thought about my dad, and even though my ex's face was the last I wanted to see, I went. Earlier that year, I myself was dealing with depression, and I knew what those thoughts felt like, so I took the train to the hospital. When I went, I realized he was manipulating me and not at all about to kill himself, and so I went back home. 2 days later, he ambushed me on my way out of my house. He dragged me to my roof, put his hands around my neck, and tried to kill me. 2 survival skills to share with you from this. 1, never stop fighting. I have always been a fighter. When I see injustice in the world, I fight. When I hear dumb comments or racist joke and I'm inspired to talk, I will write a poem about it. When there are people in a room making snarky comments, I will look at you straight in your face and try to cower you into realizing the superficial insecurity in your meanness. I am a fighter. So that day, I fought my ass off to stay alive and get him off of me. I heard my mom yell out my name, and that startled him, and so I kicked him in the stomach and screamed for help. Which brings me to my last and most important survival skill. Depend on love when your back's against the wall and you feel yourself giving up. Depend on love. If it wasn't for the love of my mother and the worry she held over me being gone for so long, she wouldn't have come out looking for me and saved my life, physically. If it wasn't for God's love and my zeal to find his love, I wouldn't be here today. After that night, I went to my sister's house and my aunt picked me up the next day. She said, "You are a diamond. It is up to you to find what you shine for." She also said, "Look for God, talk to him. Even if you don't know how, ask him for what you need and you will see how fast it comes to you. I did. Although I was depressed throughout our relationship and felt like the world was crashing down around me, I kept hope. After this happened, I looked for love in God, in my faith. Although people roll their eyes when they hear this stuff, he changed my life. It was a miracle. Everything I asked for, I got. And now, I have almost a full scholarship to the university of my dreams. My last documentary comes out this summer. I will be a Brooks graduate come May. My relationships with my loved ones has grown exponentially. Scandal is still on. My best friend's brother overcame an illness he was battling. One of my brothers got his GED, and the other one comes home this June. So yeah, I would say my love for God was my ultimate survival skill. And if there's anything you walk away from this speech hearing, I want it to be those last two things. Depend on love when your back's against the wall and you feel yourself giving up. Always depend on love. Because when the world is falling apart, the people you love will help you repair it. No matter what it is, whether you lost someone, or you're dealing with depression, or you don't know what your future holds and it scares the crap out of you, reach out to the people you love. And that extends to self-love, the next skill. Never stop fighting for yourself. Like my aunt said, it is up to you to find what you shine for. I challenge you all to do this. For me, it is for social justice, for human rights, for change. It is for Miss Miller's love. It is for Mrs. Ware's advisory junior year. It is for much needed talks with Miss Davies after class junior year. It is for my mom, who's never gave up on me. It is for my brother's letters from prison, for the collage on my father's pictures in my dorm room wall, for my nieces and nephews' laughs, for you, Miss Shaniel, Miss Perkins, Miss Acosta. It is for you, Emilio, my PBA family, my crusties. It's for you. It's for sunsets with your friends laughing on the fields. It's for the mighty class of 2016 and the angel that now watches over us, but most importantly, for this community right here and this moment in this chapel with all of you. I feel honored to always shine for you. Thank you.